And good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, and we have an absolutely outstanding 90-plus minutes for you, ladies and gentlemen. We have two monster topics to get into. Yesterday, we had breaking news where the Amazon Fire Sticks are now officially set with the Xbox app, where you can turn around and pop in one of your Fire Sticks and play Xbox games. All you need is an Xbox Golden. There's some rumors. There is some talk in the community about a very high percentage of new sales for the the Amazon Fire Stick. I don't have a story to go with that, so I'm simply just saying that take that with a grain of salt until it's reported by a Tom Warren or a Tom Henderson or just Court of Windows Central. Again, it's just a conversation that people are having. I looked for it. I couldn't find it, but I would imagine that, yes, sales are going to go up significantly. And, of course, I would imagine even more so during the 16th and 17th when Prime Day is happening. It's people that don't have Fire Sticks that are going to want to get invested in the Xbox ecosystem will potentially take a dive into that. And, of course, there is a topic that we're going to bring up, and I want to thank the person for this topic. Risk It for the Biscuit. He did a graphic of the Xbox first-party roadmap starting from 2024 currently all the way through 2026. And I got to tell you, folks, I know that you've heard Steele and Jamie Moran and myself and many other podcasters consistently talk about this Xbox roadmap. And it's important because, well, Sony doesn't have one. Nintendo has one, but Nintendo is always going to Nintendo, so we don't worry about them. They're going to just release games. Some are going to be remakes. Some are going to be remasters. Some of them are going to be new titles. You know what? I'm buying them all. But when you talk about the two bigs, because, again, Nintendo's off doing their own thing to the side, and they're fine. When you talk about Xbox and you talk about PlayStation, roadmaps have been a real contention for conversation, and one does not have one, meaning PlayStation. Xbox has one, but the reason why I'm bringing it up is because when I put this graphic on the screen for you that Risk It for the Biscuit made, it's awe-inspiring, Steele. It does really paint a picture of who is going places and who is kind of stuck. How you feeling, Steele? Welcome back, brother. Nice to have you here.
Well, Mr. BoomStick XL and ladies and gentlemen in chat, how you beautiful people doing this fine morning, going into the afternoon or whatever time that you're rolling on in here? Mr. Live Raw Uncut himself, one half of the dynamic duo known as Living Split Screen, the home of that RTS view. And man, seeing Xbox make these moves has been very interesting, but I think it more so plays into what a lot of us have been speaking into. I know me and Pong every Saturday have been kind of beating on this drum for some time about accessibility and giving people options, and just continuing to see this rollout happening. Again, I'm not saying that it's perfect. I don't know if it's going to end up being the end all to be all, but nonetheless, I do think it's an exciting time to be in, and I can't wait to get into these topics and really dive deeper into them, man. So appreciate you having me here, and it's always a good time being here, man.
Well, I definitely appreciate you being a part of today's show. And, of course, we're going to get your hot take, as you do regularly, Saturday mornings on Living Split Screen with Pong So. But we will get to that on the back end of the show where people can subscribe to your YouTube channel. Check out your live, raw, and uncut opinions each and every week. Jamie Moran, welcome back all the way from the UK, brother. Again, big things happening for Xbox. Even though it's the summer, there's still big news. I've said it in the header for today's show. Phil Spencer and Xbox have just changed modern gaming forever with of course the app arriving on the Amazon Fire Stick. I think that is a really big deal. I'm very interested to get your hot take on that, because I think that what it ultimately does is tear down the barriers of spending $500 on a controller. Now, granted, are we, the hardcore, going to probably play on this thing? Well, some might. I mean, I know Mav consistently talks about him using cloud gaming while he's in bed. Him and the missus are watching TV. He's got it on his 12-inch tablet. He's playing with a wireless controller, and it's working great. Well, you know what? That was cloud gaming, and that's something that's coming the way of the Amazon Fire Stick. I think that the price of admission at $60 for the 4K one is going to get a lot of new Xbox customers, especially for what's coming on Xbox Game Pass. But of course, Jamie, we're going to get to the second half of it where this graphic and this roadmap is very daunting. And I can see a lot of PlayStation players looking at this roadmap, looking at their own and saying, hey, man, Sony, what's going on? And I think they need to ask questions, but how the heck are you feeling?
Hey man, happy to be here. And look, when it comes to Xbox, it's a great time to talk about Xbox because they have so many different games coming, so many different genres in development. Like Xbox is in the best place they've ever been, despite all the FUD you see in the news and people throwing around. Because if you go back 10 years ago, Xbox had less than a handful of studios and even less first-party games in development, where people were unsure on the future of the platform because of the launch of the Xbox One, even a few years afterwards. And like, look at them now. Look at the amount of studios they have. Look at the amount of games that are in development. Look at the quality of the games that we've seen so far. Look at the different things they invested in, such as Game Pass, Cloud. It's an exciting time. And like, not to hate on PlayStation, like they're going to get better in the future. But as of right now, if you're a PlayStation content creator, there's nothing to talk about outside of Lego. So
it's true. Yeah.
That's why I see so many people that cover PlayStation that would constantly talk about Xbox all the time now because we have stuff to talk about. You know, go back 10 years ago, there wasn't much to talk about as an Xbox content creator. There really wasn't. Now it's the opposite. So that's why I'm excited to talk about all that stuff today.
Yeah, you know, I got to tell you, I saw a tweet that you put out. And again, it's not a topic because it was just one of your tweets regarding someone's response to you about again, no names here. We don't like to put people on blast or anything unless they do something utterly stupid, and then we have no choice. But for the most part, we try and keep names out of the conversation. And one guy responded to you about what it seemed like to me a very angry gamer. Every time you saw that, I don't know why people are getting excited about Xbox. Everything sucks. Well, I mean, I hear you, and you're entitled to your opinion, but I would like to disagree with that because right now Sony is kind of. I mean, just look at some of the lists. Matt Piscatella had put out a list, and if you look at what everyone is playing on PlayStation, it's third-party stuff. 3 of those games are Xbox first-party games. So I mean, they're not even playing their own looter shooter, so to speak. So there's just not a lot going on. But let's get into this Fire Stick conversation now. This was reported, Steele, by a lot of people. The story that I chose to use for the conversation is a site that I enjoy going to. I happen to know one of their editors, of course, Jez Corden of Windows Central. I know him personally. Got a chance to hang out with him again in LA a couple of weeks ago. I love Jez. Jez is a good dude. I love when he gets out here and he puts out great material. I love the work that he does on the Xbox 2 podcast with Randall Thor. This particular story was once again written by another journalist that I happen to really like, and that's Samuel Tolbert of Windows Central. And the header is Xbox Cloud Gaming is now available with certain Amazon Fire Stick devices. Here's what you need to know. And he goes on to say players can jump into Xbox Cloud Gaming through the Amazon Fire Stick 4K Max and Fire TV Stick 4K. Now, again, I've said this before. One of the things I really enjoy about Windows Central is they have a what you need to know section, and it kind of does really give you the gist, if you will, of what you're going to be reading in the article. And what it says here, Steele, is Microsoft recently announced a partnership with Amazon to provide Xbox Cloud Gaming through certain Fire TV Stick devices. Starting today, which of course this was written yesterday, players can download the Xbox Cloud Gaming app through the Fire TV Stick 4K Max or the Fire TV Stick 4K. Xbox Cloud Gaming requires an active Xbox Game Pass Ultimate membership as well as a Bluetooth-enabled game controller. It's that simple. You plug, you play. Now, Steele, this is a very big deal. I've seen a lot of pushback from the gaming community,
Mhm.
saying that it appears that Xbox is getting out of the hardware business, which is not the case. They are making it available for gamers who do not want to invest, or more importantly, cannot afford to invest in a PlayStation 5, which is over
Mhm.
$500, or a Xbox, which of course is priced differently. You have a $300 box, you got a
Mhm.
$500 box. Now you got some other additions coming out towards the end of the year. But just keeping with Xbox, I feel that this is a game changer, no pun intended, because the barrier of entry has now been lowered to the price of a last gen game.
Mhm.
$59.99 on Amazon gets you their top tier Fire TV Sticks 4K Max. Now they do have the Fire TV Stick 4K for $40, which of course is $20 cheaper. And if that's the route you wanted to go, nothing wrong with that. But there's two price points of entry here, plus your subscription, plus a wireless controller. I think that this is a much bigger deal, and I'm interested to get your hot take on it.
Man, is it a big deal? It's a humongous deal, at least for me. Again, in what I have considered to be the age of accessibility, and I know Pong usually coins it as the golden age of gaming. I do think it's both. I think this is the true golden age of gaming in comparison to what some may have called it back in the day, right? Just because of all the different ways we are able to play now. And I saw some people bringing it up in chat. Shout out to Calorie. What's going on, Brody? But seeing, because he was making a point that it's surprising to see the actual numbers for Xbox be 13% lower than it was for Xbox One. And the one comment that I made to him was that, fortunately and unfortunately, Xbox, Microsoft have changed their ideology on how they want to approach the future. Again, nobody knows what the future holds and what is going to be truly possible. What we do know for sure is that internet is getting better over time, with more ways to also access that very same internet. And to one of your points, Boom, that you made, and I think is one of the strongest points, regardless of how people feel, gaming is a hobby for most and a passion for us. For it being a hobby, I do think making it as accessible as possible. For an example, putting it on a Fire Stick to give you maybe a better experience than you would maybe doing cloud off your phone or anything like that. Although I don't know about the extreme particulars or why one would be better than the other or not, or what's going on with that. What I will say, though, is that there has been a blatant effort to improve it, which you have to give credibility for that, and consistent credibility for it, right? Like Serve says in chat as well, it is just more options.
Yes.
And what I am starting to, I'm not going to say I'm getting tired of it, because it really doesn't bother me. It's just interesting to see the way the conversation is going, right? The gamers of old, us that have been doing this for quite some time and have grown up with these devices. And, but even like I've explained for myself, I've came in more so on the console side of things very, very early on, and I have an appreciation for them. But I came in when online gaming was a thing, right? 99, 2000, more so 98 with PC. And it was a seamless transition for me to become part of the ecosystem because I was an online gamer. And to see 20 plus years later that Xbox is making sure that they're holding true to the thing that I always believed in more so than in Xbox, because it wasn't about exclusives to me. Yes, it was very convenient that Halo was on Xbox, that Gears was on Xbox, that Forza was on Xbox. Those things were very convenient, but they weren't the reasons why I was there. I was a part of Xbox because of what the ecosystem brought me. There was nothing like that original OG Xbox experience, being able to burn discs or download discs to the hard drive essentially and play your music while you're playing certain games, and the way that the dashboard was set up. It just seemed it was so much more futuristic. And they've kind of gone back and forth with kind of having their foot or having their hand on the right path, but then maybe being a bit too early. And with this whole Fire Stick scenario, because I posed this question on the Iron Lords a couple weeks ago when I was on with them for a little bit, that I have to ask this question, and it's a question that I think everybody should consider, and it's this: when you look at the current devices outside of Nintendo, because even the government seemingly excludes Nintendo and what they're doing, although we know that the Switch 2 is going to possibly be able to run Call of Duty, Warzone of some sort, maybe even Black Ops 6 multiplayer. We'll see. We'll see what they end up doing. But the question that I have is, what is the true difference between the Xbox and the PlayStation that we are seeing today that inherently had always existed previously? And if your only answer is, oh, the SSD, the next thing that falls in line is the ecosystem, right? And if
Yep.
it's just those two things, then how do you innovate into the future? And I think that's the questions that Microsoft has been asking themselves. Of course, these acquisitions have probably made them look at things a little bit differently, because they are acquiring a heap of content that, especially with like COD, for an example, or Candy Crush, Overwatch, Diablo, so on and so forth. These are games that can keep a base and also turn over funds, regardless of how you feel about those things. They give you reasons to invest, right? And with that taken into consideration, how do you approach the future going forward? How do you separate yourself out? How do you reach that wider audience when we have known for at least a decade that the console space has kind of capped itself off, right? We still haven't reached the numbers. Switch is getting close, but it's still not even there, of the PlayStation 2 as an example. And if that's going to be our baseline per se of what we would like to see a successful console do, and it's probably never going to do that again, because you have to take in consideration what the PlayStation 2 did as an example, just having that CD tray in there. It was more of that entertainment box that we had been looking for at the time. And to see the Switch kind of make that transition into that as well, with being a multifaceted device, it makes sense for Xbox, the ecosystem, to expand out and start treating Xbox in a similar fashion as they did Windows. Windows is everywhere. They don't limit it to certain PCs. It's not just a Dell or an HP or this or that or this motherboard. No, it's available on everything. And what in turn has that done? It has made Windows the 90% of what you use on the PC platform. And even it has its ups and downs. But again, these things aren't always going to be perfect, but we should expect for them to continue to iterate on them and make them better as they progress. So it's going to be really interesting to see how things continue to play out, to see how Microsoft continues to move in this direction. And again, from here, when you're giving people more access than ever, it's just, for me, it becomes extremely difficult to argue against why that's a bad thing, outside of, oh, well, it makes my console irrelevant. There's not going to be the love that goes into it. There's not going to be this. That's not going to be that. While in the same breath, also having the discussion about games being more expensive than ever, ownership still being a major factor of what we have to deal with, especially moving into the digital era, and us, Microsoft and Xbox seemingly being the main ones to say, hey, backwards compatibility, no matter what, we're going to continue to move forward with this. We want to make sure you have access to all of your content, and not only on the box, but we want you to have that access on your handheld devices, whether they end up making their own, or a Steam Deck, a ROG Ally, your phone, the cloud experiences, wherever you end up getting those. Even it's a major play to see Microsoft team up with who they would consider a competitor in Amazon. Right? Because AWS and Azure, they're head and head. There is nobody else out there really that they can compete with those two. And to see them cut more partnership deals, that means Amazon also sees the positive in what can be possible for this. And mind you, Boom, I know these devices, you were talking about the Fire Stick 4K Pros and the prices on them. Look, Amazon Prime Day is right around the corner, ladies and
Yes.
gentlemen. And I
Yes.
get if you have some negative stigmas about Amazon, how they do things, but let's be real as well. Amazon has become one of the de facto marketplaces for the digital infrastructure that we are currently living in. And I've seen so many benefits from being a Amazon Prime member that it gives people more of an access point. When I pull up my Amazon account and I see, oh, Fire Stick now has Xbox and this, that, and the other thing, it is an enticing factor. And like somebody else mentioned in chat, forgot exactly who it was, but they had mentioned, to your point, Boom, that, hey, I can't necessarily afford a console right now, but I do have this Fire Stick and I've been playing it on there and it's been working pretty well for their experience, which is an amazing and beautiful thing to see, and it can only get better. So it gets me extremely excited, extremely hype. I want to see more of what the potential of this is, and I don't think that this is the console is ending. I do think that this is more them freeing themselves of having to be dependent on what we as the hardcore are going to drive for the hardware market. So that's kind of
it's a great point, and that was Sherman Jacobs, by the way, that actually said that. So shout out to you, Sherman. He's like, hey, listen, I can't afford a console, but I got a Fire Stick and I could still play. Do you understand how powerful that is, ladies and gentlemen? This is a real person in chat that's putting himself out there, that's saying, hey, listen, you know what, things aren't so great, but you know what? Now that this has happened, well, I own a Fire Stick and I can play Xbox. So I'm not left out in the cold. I'm not missing out on Indiana Jones, which, again, the power of this, Jamie Moran, is incredible. And before I bring you in, I want to expand a little bit further, Steele, on a point that you made. Now, you said Amazon ultimately is, in fact, a competitor. But you know what's interesting about this deal? They have Luna. They have their own streaming service, and yet they see the value of having partnered with Xbox to bring Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and cloud gaming to what is it, like 200 million devices. Now, granted, listen, is everyone going to all of a sudden become Xbox fans? No. But if you have that many devices, let's just say they get 5 million people to be new Xbox customers. That's a freaking lot of people, and that's a lot of money. And again, value proposition in 2024 your mileage is going to vary. Some people have spendable cash, some people do not. And if there's one thing that we have learned as adults who have families, who have responsibilities like, I don't know, mortgages and rents and car notes, and I don't know, keeping the power on so you can actually play your games and feed your family. All of these real adult things that people take for granted, well, don't take for granted, because not everybody can be like you. So when I see things like this, Steele, to your point of when I see people, and again, no names here, try to poo-poo this as, your chocolate's in my peanut butter, I don't like it because it's not a traditional console, I don't like other people playing, I got to question your integrity. Because I think after it's all said and done, it's not about you worrying about your console. It's you worrying about a console war. And the more people that play, the better it is for gaming. I'm sorry. I don't see a downside to this. I think this is amazing. I think this is a really, really big deal. I love what you put down. But I want to bring Jamie Moran into the conversation. Jamie, again, no pun intended, this is a game changer. And if you think, Jamie, that it's going to stop with Amazon Fire Stick TV, you are sadly mistaken, like I would be, because Roku is just as big as the Fire Stick, and that is probably an announcement that's around the corner. And when that happens, think about where you would be able to play your Xbox games. You could play it on your traditional console, whether it be the S or the X. You can play it on your PC, whether it be a $1,000 PC or a maxed out rig that's $5,000 worth of parts. You could play it there. I can go right now with the controller that's sitting onto my left here, that is by PDP, and go play on my Samsung TV, no console. I did a video with me and my nephew, and it was running flawlessly. Now you can play on your Fire Stick. Where else will you be able to play? Like I said, I know that we're going to get into the second half about the roadmap. Folks, I'm here to tell you, just read. I'm going to pull a steel rain here. Just pull yourself back in your RTS view and look at what Xbox is doing. Their roadmap for first party is ridiculous. All of that Game Pass day and date. Look what they're doing in July alone for a Game Pass from third party. Another ridiculous thing. And on top of that, now, while you're traveling, if you don't want to take your S or take your X, you take your Fire Stick, which is the size of a pack of gum, put it into your pocket, plug it into your TV wherever you are, and you're going. I think Xbox is so ahead of the curve here, Jamie Moran. It's almost unfair. Let's get your hot take on this.
Oh, well, we have a lot to unpack here.
Please take your time. This is a conversational podcast, brother. Spend an hour if you want.
I think this is long game planning. So, like Xbox, there's people right now that are freaking out every time Xbox makes an announcement. Whether they adding things like, or you can stream on TVs, or we putting these games on PC, whatever. People freak out. Every day in my feed, people are freaking out saying, oh, this is why we're going to start getting less third-party support. And as you know, Boom, I cover upcoming games. Let me tell you, that's not actually happening. The Japanese games that we're going to skip at Xbox are skipping Xbox. That's it. People are freaking out for no reason. So when it comes to this whole Fire TV Stick thing, it's just another option. If you want to get into the Xbox ecosystem, you have multiple choices. Do you want to get a $500 premium console? You've got that with the Series X. Do you want to get a cheaper console with the Series S? You can do that. Or you can jump in with PC, or you can get now a Fire TV Stick. And if you want to play video games in a hotel before, you could carry your console or get a Steam Deck or a ROG Ally. Well, now you can just carry the Fire TV Stick literally in your bloody pocket, right? That's a pretty cool option. And for people that don't want to just spend that money, they can go out and get this and play all these games coming out. So, to people that are dogging on this, tearing it down, it's an option for people. I bet most of the people that are listening to this or later, core console gamers, that they want their core console experience. And if they can afford it, if they have the spare money, because gaming's not cheap. Gaming is an expensive hobby. It's just an option for people to go out there and play video games. Because whether you've got £10,000 in the bank or 100,000 or nothing, you still probably want to play video games.
Yes.
And games like think about it. Fire TV Sticks. There's over 200 million devices out there that are going to have access to Call of Duty Black Ops Day 1 via streaming. That is a bloody big deal because, one, Microsoft's going to make a crap ton of money off the things like skins. Like the amount of times I play COD now and there's Homelander running around, everyone's dressed as Homelander. It's quite amazing, really. That's so much more revenue. So while people can think two-dimensionally thinking, oh, Xbox is going to be making less money, less consoles, the console's going to go away. It's no, it's not an option. If you have a Series X right now or Series S, I bet there's not really a large percentage of you thinking, I think I'll just switch to start playing on a Fire TV Stick at a lower resolution via streaming. Nobody's really thinking that. It's just an option. But I think this is setting up the future. All these different companies have been trying to do the streaming thing for years. I'm probably one of the few surviving on live members from back in the day, right?
Wow, dude. Holy crap.
Yeah. I was a member of that service for a very long time, pretty much the whole time, and it was terrible. Absolutely terrible online service. But they were trying. Gaikai, they were trying to do the same thing, and then they were bought up by PlayStation. Remember, you were able to stream PlayStation games on a TV about a decade ago.
Yes.
Feature, but back then, it was a terrible technology, but it's came a long way. And I think this is setting up the future because as much as people don't want to hear this, it's true. Everyone listening right now, you like to go out, play these games, premium, free to play, whatever. There's a new generation of gamers that they didn't grow up with Mario, Sonic, Halo, Gears, or even things like N64 games like, GoldenEye, Perfect Dark. These people now are growing up with free-to-play games such as Fortnite, Apex Legends, Warzone. So these people are growing up with these free-to-play games on their parents' consoles or parents' PCs or whatever, or a console that they were bought for them. These people will grow up thinking it's an alien concept to go out there and buy a piece of hardware for a game you have to buy. Like, it's an alien concept to these people. So these people are going to grow up playing these free-to-play games on their tablets, iPhones, and now, streaming devices.
Right.
And Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, well, less than Nintendo, they pretty much in their own special bubble. But like PlayStation and Xbox, they worried right now. They worried about how, like, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, who's really going out there to buy things like South of Midnight, Indiana Jones, Perfect Dark, these premium games, when you have these free-to-play people that are basically going to be 90% of the gamers 10 years from now. It's a scary thing to think about, but it is the thing. That's why, the console space hasn't grown outside of 200 million players for 20 years. Like, it hasn't really
it's the same people buying the same consoles. It really is.
Yeah. And like everyone listening right now, you are a console gamer or a core gamer. Your children will grow up to play free-to-play games such as Fortnite. Unfortunately, I hate myself saying this. When I have kids, I'm going to force them to play Mass Effect. I'm going to force them start to finish.
I think that's a given there, Jamie.
Yeah. But it's scary the amount of times I'll see people online and say, hey, their first experience gaming was with Fortnite or Warzone, and I just want to jump out of the window in front of a moving train. But 15 years from now, who's really going outside to buy a PlayStation for an Uncharted outside of someone that's, in the gaming space right now? Nobody. So all this stuff right now is trying to get those gamers, because if you have these gamers that play these Fortnites, the Warzones, the free-to-play games, if you give these people an easy way to access these premium games, they'll step outside of their comfort zone to play something different, because it's essentially free at that point. They're already paying for the service. They already have the stick plugged into the TV. It's a good option for them. And that's when you can get hooked into the other games. Like, one of my best mates who was mainly obsessed with first-person shooters, like, that's all he would play. He got an Xbox One X in 2018, I think, or 2017, and he got Game Pass. And then he started playing a little game called The Witcher 3. It was his first RPG ever. And do you know what he does now? Because of Game Pass, he mainly only plays RPGs. So him being subscribed to Game Pass literally opened up his mind to playing something else. And that will happen to people that play only Fortnite, only Warzone and stuff. So, like, while it's a cool, different option for people now, it's great. Maybe you want to play games in a different room, go on the go, or something like that. Like 10 years from now, these gamers are going to need something to play these games on. And the core console gamers, the whole concept of core console gamers is going to change over the next 15 years. It's bloody scary, but it's the truth. So, like, I think it's a forward-thinking move. Do I think it's going to massively move the needle immediately? No, I don't think it's going to move much. But I don't think it's going to be the destruction of the Xbox console. But I also don't think they're going to gain 500 million new players. I think it's going to be a gradual process of them getting new consumers into the ecosystem that may even want to purchase a console for a more premium experience. It's a long game for Microsoft, and they've been doing the long game plan for a very long time. If you look at their ecosystem, they've been opening up for years. If you look back at the Xbox 360, they were slowly putting games onto PC via Windows Live. And they even had some games where it had mobile phone features. Like, you could plug like a Nokia phone into an Xbox 360 and there would be like some alternative game stuff. And then with the Xbox One, they started letting you play games on PC as well day one. And they've just been doing this over and over again. And if Xbox was truly going away, Xbox as a brand would be dead. It would be Microsoft Gaming and all that stuff. Like, people need to stop worrying about that stuff. Like, you have all this. We're going to talk about all the games coming with the massive roadmap. You wouldn't be investing that much money into these games if nobody was playing them. Xbox goes off player numbers, not the amount of people buying them, because the amount of people buying these games is a bit negligible when it comes to Xbox, because you have people buying microtransactions every 5 seconds. So, like, for Xbox, this is a forward-thinking thing. This is long game. And in the end, it'll pay off. Look at PlayStation. They're slowly going to do the same thing as well. Back in the day, remember, PlayStation wasn't going to put games on PC. People were adamant that was never going to happen.
Whole sleep. Huh?
Yeah. And then people start saying, no, it's going to be 3 years in between releases on PC. Then 2 years. Then 1 year. Then people are like, no, it's not going to be day and date. Okay, now it's only live service games, and now you have a Lego game coming out in a few months that's going to be D&D on PC and Nintendo Switch. Last time I checked, Lego games aren't live service games.
Right.
PlayStation is slowly going to do the exact same thing because that's where the future's going, and that's perfectly fine, and it's going to work out for both of them.
It absolutely is. And to continue this conversation, just to add some more context to this, Jamie, I want to expand on something you're just saying. We're talking Xbox, and that's what we're going to continue to talk about. If you think that Sony isn't reading the room and thinking, why are we leaving all of this money on the table? You are sadly mistaken. I am here to tell you that I don't know when it's going to be, but you're going to get a first-party Sony game on an Xbox. Now, it's probably going to be Horizon Lego next year, because if you saw the interview, and I read it, and we talked about it, I think last week, where the producer of Guerrilla Games said, "Yeah, right now we're not kind of talking about Xbox." That's not a definitive no. That's like, well, right now we're not talking about Xbox, because what they don't want to do is piss off their fan base. They are ultimately afraid. They are afraid to make moves because they are like everyone else is going to follow suit. Games are going to be everywhere. The only one company that could stand off that ideology is Nintendo, because Nintendo they're just different, man.
They're changing too, though. Boom.
That's true.
Which too is probably going to be able to play Black Ops 6 as an example, at least the multiplayer. And I mean, it's they have Hogwarts Legacy on the Switch right now. Look, it's not the prettiest game, but the fact that it's on there, I mean, there's a baseline there, I think, for sure.
I mean, listen, they're doing their own thing. They signed a 10-year deal with Xbox to bring Call of Duty, but this ideology that we're seeing unfold in front of us, where it's not starting and stopping with the traditional consoles, is a really big deal. Now, if you think about this, I totally forgot that on top of your PC and your TV and the Fire Stick, you also have handhelds all over the place. And oh, by the way, Microsoft is making their own. They're going to have their own handheld, potentially releasing right alongside their new mammoth monster console in 2026. And again, if you just look at the room, read the room, folks, they are ahead of the game. Now, normally they get a lot of arrows for being first in line to do something, and it's fine. Sometimes they keep it, sometimes they get rid of it out of not a huge adoption rate. This isn't going away. More players are going to be playing games moving forward, announcing and doing it quickly. By the way, remember this announcement partnership was just a week ago, and already it's available yesterday on 2 of Amazon's Fire Sticks, which, by the way, like Steele said, is an absolute one-to-one competitor for Azure versus AWS, but they also have their own gaming streaming service called Luna. And somehow or another, they're still working hand in hand to bring Xbox to 200 million customers. Now, again, are there going to be 200 million new customers? I'm sure Microsoft would love that. That's not going to happen. But the fact that you currently, in the chat right now, nearly 600 people here watching live across Twitter and YouTube, you have a console. You're a console gamer. I'd even dare say you're a hardcore gamer. You're in here listening to this show. But I guarantee you there's going to be someone here that's going to have a Fire Stick that's going to be like, you know what, I'm going to go try this. And whoa, it works. And it works really damn good. And by the way, they're working with NVIDIA right now. Obviously, GeForce Now is something else, another place where you can play Xbox games. I guarantee you they're going to share some technology. And as good as GeForce Now is running, which it runs unbelievably good, I don't know if anyone in the chat or anyone on the panel has recently played. I've been playing cloud gaming as much as I can, and I have had almost zero issues with stuttering, loss of control, with my, the controller not syncing, it kicking me out. I've had a great experience. I've played Halo, I played Descenders, I played quite a few games. This is the future. This is a really big deal, and it's another thing that PlayStation finds themselves behind the 8 ball once again. But let me catch up on super chats. We have 2 of them just popped up. I want to get to those, gentlemen, and I want to bring up this graphic for you because again, risk it for the biscuit. Prominent member of the community. He is the host of the Xbox. The Xbox. Well, it used to be the Xbox Ultimate Podcast. Now it's just the Ultimate Podcast on Friday nights. He's like I said, me and Riskit, we're good friends. I want to give him credit as due because this, again, we can talk roadmap. I can regurgitate every game. It's not going to hit like this graphic will. Give me a second to bring that up, but let me catch up on these super chats, and then we'll get into that second half of the show. Dwayne Colavito. Dwayne, welcome. This is a name I don't recognize, but thank you so much for being here. And of course, thank you so much for the very generous $5 super chat. Dwayne says, if not for Xbox, PlayStation fans would not have very much to play. And that is very true. I mean, they just look at the top 10 that's out. The list is out there. And well, 3 of the top 10 are Xbox games. Helldivers, nowhere to be found. Why is that? I don't know. Highlander 001 drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, I'm playing PS3 games on my Xbox thanks to dev mode. Commanding a tank was a blast. Missed my time in the service. I see my Game Pass growing this holiday. Hey, I'm glad you got a chance to run that tank, brother. And great to have you here. And of course, once again, Highlander, thank you for the outstanding support. So let me go into the graphic that I'm going to pull up over here. Now, I'm going to bring up Brisket for the Biscuit. I'm actually going to just bring up the graphic all together and just do a quick screen share. So, folks, bear with me as I do this in real time. Present, screen share. Here we go. Okay, so let's make sure you're seeing what I'm seeing. Now, I don't know if I can get it any bigger. Let me just see. Hold on just a second. Let's see if can I bring this up any bigger. Okay, well, no, you know what? That is what it's going to be. Sorry that it's not bigger. So I'm going to read verbatim what's on this graphic. Now, this graphic is all first-party games that are currently in development. Some are releasing in 2024. Some have already been slated for 2025. We have games that we expect in 2026, and there are some beyond games. And gentlemen, look, I'm here to tell you, when you see this graphic in front of you, when you see it in real time, it is awe-inspiring, especially if you are A, an Xbox fan, B, an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscriber. I mean, you just cannot go wrong with what they're doing. So let me just get into it. So he has here for 2024, you have Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, which was an outstanding experience released in May. This remainder of the year, you still have Avowed. You still got Age of Mythology. You still got Indiana Jones. You got Call of Duty Black Ops 6. You got Flight Sim. You got quite a few other games on here. You got 33 Immortals. You have Towerborn, which is not on here as well. That could maybe be bumped into next year. We don't know, but that's also slated for this year. Then you go into 2025. You got Fable, which is confirmed. You got South of Midnight. That's confirmed. You got Doom: The Dark Ages. That's confirmed. Contraband is definitely a possibility. Perfect Dark, I think, is 2026 in my opinion. But what's not on here, which is in the 2026, is Clockwork Revolution. I thought that that was ready to go this year. It's probably going to release next year. That game was really well polished when we first saw it, and you see NXL continues to talk about it. Steel Rain. Then of course you get into 2026. You got Blade, which is a possibility. State of Decay 3, Gears of War E-Day, which is expected in 26, but there was the rumor that it was coming next year, which would be crazy if it did. Of course, there's going to be a new Call of Duty. There is a people can fly Project Maverick that they're working on. They have a $50 million budget on that game. I personally don't know what it is. No one does. If I were to take a stab at it, I'd like to think that it's potentially Gears of War collection. I think that we switch E-Day to 25 for next year. You give us the Origin, and then for the 20th anniversary, you release an Unreal Engine 5 version of Gears 1, 2, and 3. That, to me, is the way I would do it, but, that's my opinion. And, of course, when you start talking Steel, 2027 beyond, you got the Elder Scrolls, you got Project Mara, you got the Toys for Bob project, you got the OD project by Kojima, you got Project Dragon from IOI. You also have, they're working on a 007 game. You got the Outer Worlds 2. You're probably going to get a Fallout 5 of some sorts. This list is almost ridiculous. Like, I would even dare say that it is unfair. They have such an unfair advantage of not only being one of the richest companies in the world, and of course, Xbox being a part of Microsoft. This is what you call getting your ducks in a row, getting your ducks in order. Steel, I want to talk about these games. This is what a roadmap should look like, and it's one that Xbox has and PlayStation does not.
Then definitely not at this depth, not even close on Sony side of things, at least for what we've seen. But to keep things on Xbox, this is extremely impressive to me, because even all these games, like Avowed, for an example, it wasn't a game that I was necessarily looking forward to, as I don't tend to favor first-person games, which is really ironic, right? I'm an Xbox fan, and I don't necessarily fall into the first-person category unless we're talking about shooters and whatnot. But once they said they were doing a third person as well, I was like, oh, looks like I'm on board. I'm all aboard on that Avowed train. And just seeing the diversity of the content as well, right? RTS games is, for an example, of Age of Mythology Retold coming back out. That was a game that I played on release on PC many moons ago, and I thought it was a very impressive game. It's one of the RTSs that I think is even easier, a little bit easier to grasp onto and play for the console gamers, right? I know a lot of people kind of go to Supreme Commander and other games of that ilk, Halo Wars, as far as RTSs and stuff go, as for the games that are easily to be played on console. So when you just continue to look down the list that you have on screen here, it's kind of, you have to start asking yourself, where do you start saying that it's unfathomed value, I should say, right? It's insurmountable. It's undeniable at this point, right? If you're still looking at the games that are possibly coming out and saying, I just don't know about Xbox, that sounds like a personal issue that you have to personally deal with. And like me and Pong tend to say all the time on our show on Live the Split Screen, it's you have to know who you are as not only as a person, but only as a gamer in this hobby, in this passion. Why do you play games? And if you're looking through this list, you're like, oh man, I guess I gotta wait until Gears E-Day to be excited. You have to really look at yourself and what you're doing in your hobby, maybe a little bit more, maybe pull yourself away until that time. But it just shows me that all the worries that maybe people had, even in 2022, when I thought Game Pass did extremely well and held them together, which is essentially the strategy that PlayStation is seemingly using this year, using a lot more of their second and third party deals to create console exclusives and have their base see them as such. And quote unquote, all of a sudden these games are considered exclusives for PlayStation as if they are first party. It's extremely ironic to see the tit for tat that's kind of happening, right? And I get, if people don't want to see Xbox as the little brother of the gaming and in the gaming industry, that's perfectly fine. I get it. Microsoft doesn't need to be seen that way. I don't think that, I'm not telling anybody they should see them that way, but it is a fact that PlayStation has allowed Xbox to make some room for themselves and have also forced Xbox to look at their strategy a bit differently, right? It is a very bold thing for someone like Phil to come out on stage and say, hey, we lost the most important generation to lose in the Xbox One era, but we want to continue to hammer out. It is about accessibility. Sarah Bond, we want to reach more people where they are and give people access greater than ever before, because that is the point, right? Reaching the potential 2 to 3 billion gamers that I like to mention and shout out all the time. The more accessible we can make gaming, the more games, especially single player games, that we as the hardcore base are going to be able to experience, play. Those games are going to be allowed freedom. Again, if we continue to open this space up and you have this diversity of content, and again, this first party studio lineup is not even including what is going to come into Game Pass in that entire span, right? So it's like when you look at 2024 all the way into 2027, where you got OD and Outer Worlds 2, or even just you leave it at 2026 with State of Decay 3 and Blade, and Gears E-Day as an example, even if it does release early, they're supposedly releasing a newer console around that time as well. And if it ends up being a handheld-like device that has the accessibility to be played on your TV, to be hooked up however you like it, to be taken on the go, to do whatever you would like to do with these devices, it just speaks further into what their vision truly is and what they've always have spoke to, at least in my belief, since 2017 at least, right? So this is great for the ecosystem. This is great for us who are always going to ask those questions like, hey, Xbox, where are these first party games that we're asking for? And I think, again, 2022 really broke it down to them, where they had to sit down and say, look, what does our roadmap look like, especially after the pandemic and everything? It's pushed things back, but I think it has also allowed them time to really put a roadmap like this together and hammer it out to at least allow people to see what is possible, what's coming, what is out there, to continue to raise those hype levels, because now we know you can never say that Xbox does not have games, at least bottom line, coming. Right. We can question them all day about, we don't have release dates for this, but you know why? At least for me, why I don't think we have release dates for a lot of these different games, because one, we do live in an era where games get pushed back more than ever before. Not only that, but there are so many second and third party deals that are happening around them as well. It makes no sense to rush a Fable, to rush a Perfect Dark, to rush a South of Midnight, to rush Clockwork, or any other game moving forward, when you know that you can have others kind of come in, have a seat, and give these other studios time to really develop and deliver us what I've been asking for, day one, more well-developed games that are really good from top to bottom, that don't need updates a day later, that don't need all this other work six months later, and so on and so forth. So it's extremely amazing to me to see Xbox kind of being in this retrospect, kind of looking back at themselves like, man, look at how far we've come, and look at what we have also overcame in this time as well. So I get excited about this. I'm a little bit on board as far as like I can speak about Gears of War all day, 100%. Gears of War is a series that will ever be in my heart, 1 through 5, even Judgment I'll throw in there story wise. And I had fun with the multiplayer as well. And just to speak on that a little bit, I do hope that Gears E-Day is that 26, and that if anything, I would rather them do a trilogy with Gears of War E-Day, really go through that time period, and then after you finish that trilogy, which would probably end up putting it around 2030, 2029, whatever the timing may be on that, then you re-release the original trilogy, but in Unreal Engine 7 or whatever it may be at that time, to really hammer the point out of, hey, this is what this IP is. This is what we've been putting into the works. This is why we understand things. And it only makes it easier for the coalition to really fulfill themselves and solidify themselves as the caretakers of that IP and as an Xbox studio. So
I mean, listen, great points all around. Now, I took down the graphic. Shout out to Paris Lilly. If you don't know who Paris is, you probably should. He's a part of Gamertag Radio, has been for years. He's also with Kind of Funny Games. Paris, I get you, brother. I made mention of it that this list is, like Paris said, it's not accurate in regards to its, and that is fair. But these games are coming, regardless of the years being so. So Paris, thank you so much for the correction, brother. And of course, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to the show. We truly appreciate it. Jamie Moran, look, the graphic that I threw up for everyone to see, and I wound up going into one of my art studios and I made it bigger, is astounding. Like it doesn't even seem like it's real. Like if someone were to try and regurgitate what Xbox has coming in the next 2 to 4 years, it almost seems infallible. Like how could they lose with this kind of a lineup? And I don't think that they can. And like I said, right now in July 9th, 2024, Sony sits as the market leader. I don't think that is going to be for much longer. I think that the way that we opened up the show with allowing for more gamers and potential even the normies, the casuals who don't play games regularly, getting them into the Xbox ecosystem is now as cheap as $40, or buying a new TV that has, any Samsung TV is going to come with their gamer hub, and you'd be able to just simply attach a wireless controller to it and then go. These are ways, the walls of traditional console gaming have calmed down. We've talked about that. But now you add into the conversation, which was an Achilles heel for years for Xbox. Mm-hmm. This is where they adopted Xbox has no games, right? And as Xbox gamers, we knew that they had, but they didn't have the same level of games one-to-one with what Sony was putting out. You look back to like when Sony's, when they put that 3-block year together, 2018, 2019, 2020, they had a lot of bangers in there, man. They really did. Now, maybe they're not your type of game, ladies and gentlemen. They're my type of game, which is why I own a PlayStation 5. We're not seeing that now. They don't have those games. Xbox has this roadmap, which you saw with names. Now, granted, sure, are the years off? Potentially on some of them. But that does not mean that these games weren't already announced. And mind you, Jamie, there are DLCs left off of this. There are other games that we know, like Wolfenstein 3 is off that list. There is so much more that's on the back end of what we see with this list. It almost seems, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, it almost seems like an unfair advantage for Xbox. Let's get your hot take on this, man.
I mean, trust me, there's more games that weren't on that list that people don't know about. But it's look, if you go back a few years, the joke about Xbox was wait till E3. And the wait till E3 thing was this weird issue because Xbox only revealed games at E3. They never used to reveal games throughout the year. They barely showed up to the Game Awards. They never really showed much of Gamescom back in the day. So the wait till E3 thing came from that because you had to wait till all year. People would be clamoring for news all year, and there was never Xbox news throughout the year. It was rare we got Xbox news. And then E3 would come, we'd have a month of news, and then people would go back to wanting more news. And that's because Xbox used to rely on holiday sales. So they would put all their games out in between September and November, August and November, and basically that'd be their holiday lineup. Aaron Greenberg always used to talk about holiday lineup. And like 2015 was probably their strongest holiday lineup. And they'd advertise all these games throughout these months to sell consoles towards Christmas. Now, when Game Pass came into effect and they started doing day one games, they had to move from that business model altogether because they want people to stay subscribed all year round. So they have to get people's attention throughout the entire year. So they have to release major games in the service throughout the entire year. That's why Matt Booty said like two years ago that they want to start releasing 4 major AAA games
in
Game Pass.
Yep.
Yeah, once every quarter. And they weren't even including smaller games. And if you look at the lists there, they actually getting to that point. In fact, it's going to get to a point where they're going to be able to launch 6 to maybe 8 AAA games a year, depending on how they want to launch them. But that's because they want people to stay subscribed to Game Pass. So they no longer do the whole holiday lineup in air quotes. And if you look at the games they have coming now, the majority of them are single player, right? Which Microsoft, people were saying for years, Xbox is the shooter box. It's all about microtransactions and live services. But if you look at the games that are in development, they're single player. They're not live service games. And do you know what the competition's making? Live service games. And you don't see these articles coming out. You don't see people talk about PlayStation about the live service box and all this stuff. Like Xbox, people hate on them. They've listened to feedback. They needed to make single player games. They needed to make a lot of them, and they have a lot of them in development. Like hell, like if you look at 99% of that list, it's purely single player. So like they already have multiplayer unlocked with Call of Duty, Halo, Gears, the Forza stuff. So they don't need any more. Doom's gonna have some of that stuff. But like when it comes to single player content, and as a person that mainly plays single player games, like I'm very happy with the games that's coming. Like I have a ton of stuff to play. And the cool thing is, like, we still haven't seen everything. They have over 35 studios. We've seen less than half of them less than half of the studios reveal their games because multiple Xbox studios have multiple teams. So, like, you see that list, and it's kind of like jaw dropping because PlayStation, like, this isn't an Xbox versus PlayStation thing, but PlayStation, they were always praised for their first party lineup every single year. If you go back at like over 15 years ago, the Xbox 360 was at the top of the world. The PlayStation 3 was a literal joke because it was an overpriced Blu-ray player, right? There was next to no first-party games people were interested in. And PlayStation, what did they do? They came out with a bunch of interesting first-party games across a different range of genres, and that got people's attention. And over a few years, in the second half of that PS3 generation, people were like, you know what? Maybe it's time to get a PlayStation 3. They dropped the price of the console. They made a slim version. Blu-rays came down in price. People were very happy with the console to the point where it actually technically outsold the PlayStation. Sorry, technically outsold the Xbox 360, even though the Xbox 360 won in mindshare. PlayStation had a comeback. This is going to be that for Xbox because, like, as much as people will hate on Xbox, as much as people will say, I'm not buying an Xbox for Indiana Jones, I'm not buying an Xbox for Starfield, insert any game you want, it's going to get to a point where they're going to have to. Because people will say, oh, Xbox is making all their games multi-platform. I'm sure there will be more multi-platform games in the future. Like future card games, MMOs, smaller games, multiple smaller live service games. Like Pentiment, right? Remember how people were losing their minds about games going multi-platform? Did you ever see any PlayStation games in your feed share clips of Pentiment?
No, that would be no.
No. I'm not telepathic, and I can tell you, no. Nobody was posting clips. Hi-Fi Rush, people were like, this is a PlayStation game. Nobody was posting clips. Sea of Thieves popped off, but that was one game out of 4. And people are making it seem like it's the whole slate type of thing. Again, that's a different topic. Like, Xbox is in a great position. People will cry all day, talk about games skipping the platform, even though that's factually not true. The games that were like Xbox could have 1 billion consoles out in the wild, and there would still be Japanese games skipping the platform. That's always going to happen. And like Xbox, they've came a long way. If you go back 10 years ago, they had next to no first-party studios. They had next to no first-party games. They were relying on third-party studios making their games. What do you call that game? Scalebound. Scalebound was shown off. People like me liked it because I like dragons and fantasy. People hated on it. When it was shown off for the second time, people were making fun of its frame rate. And let's be honest, the frame rate was kind of all over the place. So, like, when that game was cancelled, you had all these people say, oh, that was the one game I was interested in for buying an Xbox. And they were just saying that just to, console war. But, like, it's going to get to a point now where people realize Xbox has a huge first-party slate that they want to get. So whether they buy a console, an Xbox Series XS, maybe a future handheld, maybe they dip their toes into the PC space, maybe they get a Steam Deck or something, or they get a Roku because it's going to be cheap. It's going to be or Amazon Fire TV Stick. Like, Xbox is in a great place. I know people have had a rough year with them with the way things went in January and stuff with rumors. But like, look what happened in January and look at where Xbox is at now, right? They had their strongest first party showcase ever, to the point where like PlayStation centric people and websites are saying that wasn't just the best Xbox showcase ever, that was the best showcase ever. Like, that had everyone's eyes on it. Like, Xbox and like Doom, the Dark Ages, and Perfect Dark was trending in the UK at like 2 a.m, right? That doesn't happen here much, So I know people like this, like dog on Xbox and like complain about games and stuff. You have these people making clickbait about Starfield all the time because they don't have a personality. But the truth is that Xbox has a bunch of cool games coming. They have a variety of games coming. They have first-person shooters, third-person shooters, RPGs, action-adventure games, RTS games, sim games. If people look at Xbox's games and say, none of that's for me, then you can't be a gamer.
Yeah,
you're not wrong. Fair. You're not wrong. I mean, there is going to come a point where if you're complaining about every Xbox game that's releasing, and the fact that they have such a plethora of different IPs as well as genres, then it really is. It's an Xbox thing. You just don't like Xbox. Hey, listen, if you don't like Xbox, I hear you. Don't like the box. Don't like the games. Take your money and spend it on a Switch. Spend it on PlayStation. They'll be more than happy to take your money, and 10 times over, because Sony's notorious for nickel and diming its fans. But this is an astonishing list. This is an incomplete list, like Jamie Moran said. There are a lot of IPs that are we know that are on the way that just are not announced yet. Fallout 5, inevitable. Starfield 2, inevitable. Right? I mean, we're going to get around to these things. Obviously, the Elder Scrolls is one of those big ones. What's interesting, and I don't think that the hit parade is going to stop here, because what we're all waiting for is the rumor that popped off last week, gentlemen, and that was that Activision games are going to start launching into the platform or into Xbox Game Pass as soon as August. But I'm hearing rumors, along with several other people. Paris Lilly is one of the rumors that I heard. He was out there doing a back and forth with Jez Corden about, Jez saying that there's potentially something coming at the end of July. Randall Thor on the Xbox 2 podcast said that he believes, that's not fact, that Modern Warfare 3 is going to be one of those games to hit the service this July, along with everything that we already have coming, which would be ridiculously awesome. I mean, I already bought the game, so I'm already in the bag. But if you didn't buy the game, well, look what happened with some of the other Activision games that came into the service. Diablo 4, one of the biggest releases for Xbox Game Pass. That was held by Starfield. That was now taken over by Diablo 4, being a huge release for Xbox Game Pass. And if Modern Warfare 3, which IGN gave a 3 out of 10, which we know was not a 3 out of 10, along with a lot of other publications that really beat up on that game for a lot of reasons, well, it's still one of the most popularly played games today. Almost, 8 months after its release. So all I can say is that what we see in front of us with the cloud gaming and the Fire Stick, and I would imagine Roku's around the corner, with all the ways that you can play your Xbox, with the way Xbox has brought ridiculous value to Xbox Game Pass, with its current roster of games that are there, all of the third-party, second-party, and indies that are consistently being dropped into the service, and that list that you just saw, every one of those games, ladies and gentlemen, will be released into Xbox Game Pass. That is unreal. But hey, Paris, I see you with the emoji. I see what you're doing there, brother. Listen, we got some time. Normally this is a 90-minute show. What I want to do is, because obviously we blasted through the topics, and I don't want to regurgitate everything that we've talked about. I kind of want to have some fun with the community, have some fun with Steel Rain, with Jamie Moran, and talk about something that we don't normally do on this show. And I've had the request by a lot of people, what are we playing? What are we playing? Well, I can tell you this right now, and I'll go first. But before I do that, let me catch up on super chats here. Been quite a few of them, and then we'll get into what we're playing. And of course, chat, get involved. Let us know what you're playing as well. Hargeet Chani, generous friend of the program, and of course, panel member for Primetime Gaming. And we'll be back at this tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm writing that show literally as we speak. He says this after dropping a very generous $10 super chat. Since we're talking about cloud gaming, if you want to play PlayStation games on Xbox, Boosteroid works on Xbox through the Edge browser. Buy your PlayStation games on Epic or Steam to play on Xbox. That was very scandalous there, Hargeet Chani. I could see him laughing as we speak. Thank you for the generous $10 super chat, brother, and thank you for the info. I didn't even know you can use Boosteroid on your Xbox. That's pretty dope. And there is some talk that you will soon, maybe it's, and again, it's a rumor, that GeForce Now will be playable on your Xbox, which is pretty crazy, but that's a possibility. Will Broke Boy Lewis, real generous friend of the program, drops in a very generous $5 super chat. And Will goes on to say, the first party for 2024 leaves off Flight Sim, Towerborn, still scheduled for this year, Starfield DLC, and Aura Stories Untold as well. And of course, there is the Diablo 4 expansion that's in there. There's also 33 Immortals that was left over there. So there's a lot. I mean, they have a lot releasing this year, and it's everything from AAA banger like Hellblade 2 to smaller titles like Aura History, Stories Untold, which again, not for me, but it's going to be for somebody. Fantas Archer drops a very generous $5 super chat. And he goes on to say, with xCloud being somewhat weaker, could Fire Stick deals give players a taste of Xbox? And if liked, want folks to go for the better experience with Game Pass plus Xbox Series X and S? Thoughts? I think that is definitely why you're going to find an Xbox app on other devices to potentially entice new customers to actually buy a traditional box. Because remember, not everyone is a normie where they've never owned a console. There are a lot of people that, for adult reasons or financial reasons, they are not with consoles right now. Maybe they play Xbox Game Pass. They see the value of it. They're like, wow, I can get all these games in here. Oh, I played Call of Duty on my PS3, and I can play it here. And oh my God, I can play every Call of Duty here. And they go out and they buy an Xbox Series S or X. It's definitely a possibility. Leonard Herrera, who's been a channel member for a whopping 28 months. Leonard, thank you so much for the generosity. He goes on to say, be a good friend and get your gaming friends maxed out on Xbox Game Pass. Listen, you're not wrong, brother. I am paid up. I'm currently, I just bought another 3 month up to, when is it? July 7th of 2027. I'm ready to rock and roll. Again, cdkeys.com, folks. You can get a 3 month pass, a 3 month block for $24, like right now. Do it. Freddie Fox. Hey, Freddie, what's going on, brother? Great to see you here. And of course, thank you for the generosity. Freddie goes and says this after dropping a very generous $5 super chat. Boom. PlayStation is not the market leader anymore. When 4 Xbox games are in PlayStation's top 10 most played, PS5 has literally been converted to a Series X W for the Xbox. I love it, brother. The scandalism is just on another level, but you're not wrong. When you have that many top 10 in the top 10 and they're Microsoft owned games, are you the market leader? I don't know. But Thanaros, wow, this is crazy, folks. He has been a channel member for crying out loud, probably as long as the channel's been around. 57 months. Thanaros, brother, I don't even know what to say, but thank you. That is unbelievable generosity, and we appreciate it here. Thanaros goes on to say, I'm playing Evil West and Grapple Dog. Don't sleep on Grapple. I don't even know what Grapple Dog is. I have to go check it out. And Evil West is dope. Like it's a very old school last gen type of game, but graphically it's gorgeous. It plays kind of like Gears of War in the Wild West with vampires. It's pretty good. If you missed out on Evil West, please give that a shot. And I'm going to try Grapple Dog. I don't know what it is, but if you're saying it's good, I'm going to give it the old college effort. But Steel,
Mm-hmm.
You and I are currently playing this game that's on your screen. Now, granted, this was recorded from the Xbox DVR, which is not the greatest.
Still
It
looks
looks
solid.
like it. What's that?
I said it still looks solid.
No, it absolutely does. But it looks really good in person. Like I said, don't go. Oh my God, it's stuttery. That's it's 1080p, folks. This is what the service offers, and I don't do any of the other services, so that's that. But I'm here to tell you, I've dropped $50 into this game, a 20 drop, a 20 drop, and a 10 drop. I got the season pass. I bought a bunch of outfits. I just unlocked Bunny. She's an amazing character. She's level 1. I got to. After I'm done here, I'm racing to go play this game. It is phenomenal. The First Descendant is a free-to-play PvE, which you're fighting the computer. It is astoundingly polished. The cutscenes are amazing. The voice acting is phenomenal. The differentiation of characters or NPCs that are in the game are just unbelievable. They're on another level. The amount of bad guys from each section of the world that you go to changes. I'm absolutely adoring this. I think that it's free to play. Download it. If you don't like it, just move on. But if you like looter shooters, this is for you. They have an amazing amount of guns and gear. You don't have to spend any money. I decided that I wanted some cosmetics, which is why I did it. Steel, what else are you playing besides the First Descendant?
Well, outside of the First Descendant, it's the main thing on that's taking a majority of my time. There is another game that I'm planning on playing that actually releases today on Steam, known as Once Human, which is supposed to be a open world survival MMO, very similar to The Division. I haven't played the beta for it, but others have, and they really loved it. Essentially, it's like the world gets put into like Stranger Things kind of thing going on. There's a lot of alien-esque things going on as well. For an example, there's this strange essence that turns like buses into spiders and lampposts into these flying creatures. It seems to be really dope. It's also another PvE. It's a PvEVP game for those who are on PC, something to get into. But I would be remiss if I didn't give my shout out to Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree. Yes. I did end up beating that as well. And before the First Descendant came out, and might I say it's a 10 out of 10 DLC for me.
Excellent.
I haven't said that about a DLC for a Souls game in some time, especially Dark Souls being my main crux for those types. But and on every facet, it was just an amazing and outstanding experience. A moving work of art at all times. The bosses gave me exactly what I wanted in that experience, the challenge, while also not taking it overly serious, because I am in the camp where I believe in using the tools that the game gives you, right? Don't let nobody bully you into telling you got to play a certain way, do things a certain way, play the game how the game was intended. And even Miyazaki himself has come out and stated, hey, I designed the game for you to be able to use all these different tools of the game. So however you beat it, you beat it. So it was just such a grand experience. And just thinking about it made me just kind of sit back when I got to the end of it and fought that last boss. And for those who know, he's definitely a final boss for a game for sure. But it made me sit back on my almost 300-hour playthrough between the DLC, original Elden Ring, and also the DLC on my 300 and almost 20 level character. That's without doing any grinding or anything, just playing the game straight up. And just love every bit of what From Software was able to do this time around. Not only were they able to deliver a excellent DLC, but they also delivered Armored Core 6, which I felt was also extremely amazing, and got more attention than ever in comparison to prior entries with that IP. But right now, the First Descendant is my main squeeze for sure. Running things with Bunny, she was a character that I jumped into with in the closed beta because I just liked who I just liked her design. I'm a lightning fanatic, so any character that allows me to use lightning or magic abilities that allow me to get that power fantasy of lightning, I always kind of move towards. And it's just so dope seeing how she gives me some of those feelings of being the Flash, but also still being somewhat of like a nuke at times, and giving me some of the feelings of what I got from Warframe, because I probably have easily close to over 500 to 1,000 hours in Warframe as well. And I would consider myself as a casual player, even with that's which is crazy. My brother and our buddy that we were playing with, they're on a completely different level. But it being a more, I would say, a casual experience for those who may have been interested in Warframe but maybe felt it was convoluted or too much to get into. And I know they've changed a ton, right? And I would recommend Warframe to people, but if I wanted people to truly experience something of that ilk, maybe even a Destiny a like product, a Division like product, as Jamie mentioned at the beginning of the show, I all the time look for these third person shooters that are really going to stick out for me, and this is one of the ones that has really impressed me, right? From the closed beta to what I've played now, it's a night and day differences for the changes that they've made, and it just feels better than I was even expecting. There are some cosmetic things that I feel like they need to definitely adjust, just to make it more appealing, more so for the players that are coming in, right? Sure, I posed this question on the timeline, and I'll pose this question to y'all and also the chat, because I just think it is interesting. But do free-to-play games not deserve the devs to get supported? Because, and the reason I say that, because everybody gets so up in arms about, oh, it's free to play and it's got all these monetization schemes. And again, I'm not saying it's perfect. You'll get into it and you'll see things that can make the experience easier, although the game is intended for you to grind. It is a looter shooter. That is the definition of what those games are, right? No, it's not Borderlands 2, but if you're in that vein of Destiny 2, that vein of The Division, that vein of Warframe, those are games, especially on release in their first year, where they were extremely repetitive. And it was a grind fest for everything that you did in those games. And for people to start using that as a negative to why, I can see in the market, you can pay for this and you can do this and do this. Again, I have to ask myself, if somebody spends $1,000 to speed up their process and you spend, for example, like in Boom's example, 20, 30, $50 on this game, maybe you pay full price for a full price game on this. You spend $60, $70 just getting cosmetics because you want to show the dev some support. And if you still have access to get everything in the game through playtime, at what point do you start asking yourself, like, what's more important? Is it the fun that you're actually having playing the game, or is the fun and the money that in the $1,000 that you spent? I'm confused in that. Again,
good point.
I don't get why all the free to play games. I mean, again, some are more egregious than others, but I do think that free to play devs deserve to be supported. It's a gamble up front, and they should be allowed to at least see whether or not people are wanting to support this game. Again, this is very similar to what Warframe went through. Warframe would not be the game it is today if it wasn't free to play. A lot of the mechanics that Warframe has now would not exist if it was not free to play and allowed that baseline of an audience to really get enveloped in what the game was, give feedback, and really change the experience. And now you see has crossplay, cross progression, all those things, where a game like The First Descendant has those things day one, has been running pretty effortlessly, flawlessly for the most part, outside of the server downtime that they had, which kind of coincided as well with the Xbox downtime. So there is some of that. And I see Deliver X in the chat saying Warframe, oof. Again, I use that as a baseline because that is a lot of what's in here. You're going to, when you get a character, Bunny they set a good example, but it's not the reality. So after Bunny, as an example, Boom, and I'll just warn you, for other characters that you end up getting the pieces for and start to put together and build, it is going to take, like I just put my character Freya together. It's going to take 16 hours before you can play with that character.
Yeah.
Now, can you speed that time up? Yeah,
Sure.
you can pay and speed that up. But you could also spend, maybe you get off you play for another 3 hours, or you grind and get whatever resources you need, because it is going to be a resource heavy game. Again, it's a looter. Look what we're talking about here. And then maybe you get off the game next day, you're working, you're busy, you're doing this, family, whatever the case might be. And boom, next day, the character's ready for you and you've done some of the back end work. So it's just between Elden Ring, the first Ascendant, and possibly this new game, Once Human, that's releasing today. And that's just a small portion of the different games that I've been playing this year, and as of late. But those have been the three that I've really been excited about, really been enjoying my time with, two really. And man, it's a beautiful time that we're in right now as gamers.
It absolutely is. Jamie Moran, before we get on out of here, we get to outros. I want to know what's got your attention, man. What are you playing? I know that you've dabbled into the first Ascendant. You said that this was a bit of a busy week for you, but are you playing anything else?
Oh, I've been playing Elden Ring: Shadow of the Erdtree because I hate myself and I want to cry myself to sleep at night. I love Elden Ring. It's a masterpiece. It really is. And you know, the DLC. People say the DLC is harder than the main game. And it's like, is it harder because I haven't played for 2 years? And
that's part of it.
100%. And I'm just really rusty. Or is it because it's actually tough? And I think it's maybe a mix of the two. But yeah, I love it. I'm trying to get through all 76 bosses of the game. I've now done about 12. Again, I hate myself. But great game. I'm also playing Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora. I've been playing that on and off for maybe 6 months now. It has to be one of the most next-gen games people just don't talk about. Yeah. It is absolutely beautiful. Like, if you're a fan of the movies, it's you're gonna have a field day. And if you're a hippie, it's basically Far Cry for hippies.
Yeah.
So true. Like, people will love it. And like, I know there's rumors it's coming to Game Pass and all that stuff, but like, it's an incredible game that more people need to try, because unfortunately Ubisoft sent that game out to die. They never advertised it. They were blatantly waiting for Avatar fans that love the movies to just go out and buy the game, rather than spend their own money marketing the game. Unfortunately, but it does have 2 expansions coming. One comes out this month. I've also been playing Lost Judgment's expansion.
Nice.
Lost Judgment. That is an incredible game. If people don't like Yakuza, play Judgment. You basically play it as a detective in Japan that's also a master martial artist. It is incredible. I've
actually been told by a lot of people because I don't play the Yakuza games, but they said play Lost Judgment. Boom! I bought it. I have it.
Yeah, like Judgment's the first game. Lost Judgment is the sequel. But I will say this: Judgment, the first game, is possibly in my top 25 best games of all time now.
Wow, dude!
Like 9.5 out of 10. Absolutely incredible. But the sequel is, it's not just as good, but it's pretty good. But that's pretty much all I've been playing. I've been playing a bunch of indie games like Little Kitty Big City. You play as a cat, so I get to experience what my cat's like, which is amazing.
Dude, Diablo. See, that's the beautiful thing about Game Pass, dude.
Yeah.
You're not just doing, Jamie, bro dude shooters. There's something in there that you might not have tried if it wasn't, and I think that is a real regret.
Yeah, and I've actually been playing an Xbox 360 game recently called Prison Break. I've been playing the Prison Break video game on 360, and it's pretty good. It's janky beyond belief, like to modern standards. TV licensed tie-in on a 360 game. It's rough, but it's fun. It's just like games of a different era were just, in my opinion, just much more fun. I love the 7th generation of games. I think games have kind of lost something now. Everything has to be super photorealistic with Unreal Engine 7, triple ray tracing and all this stuff. But like back on 360, like the variety of 360 games is just crazy compared to this generation and last generation. I know I'm rambling, but I've just been playing games all over the place.
You know what? But that's the wonderful thing about being a gamer these days. Again, Pong Soul says that this is in fact the golden age of gaming. whether you play on PC, whether you're a PS guy or gal, your Switch, or you play on Xbox, there really is a lot to play. But specifically because this is an Xbox show, and we're going to keep it Xbox tight. Right now, Game Pass is killing it. There are games of every ilk, in size, in development, from AAA bangers to one man or developed game. It's great, and it's all in your service for $16.99 a month. You can't beat it, especially in a world which kind of sucks right now. Everything is going up except our paychecks, right? And I'm not the only one that's saying that. That is a world fact. Whether you live in New York, whether you live in LA, whether you live on another side of the planet, everything is going up. And the one thing that we know that is almost a must when you have to cut things is entertainment. And that is why I consistently say Xbox values its customers and it gives value to us. And it allows for everybody, no matter what your financial station is, to be a part of the conversation. I don't think they get enough credit for that. I think it is a really, really big deal that you can get games like Call of Duty in your service and get games like Big City, Little Kitty, or Little Kitty, Big City, whichever it is. That is pretty freaking cool. If you would have told me this when I was 10 years old, I'd have been like, I'm never leaving the freaking house. Like, are you kidding me? So listen, this has been an outstanding show. I got to do some self-publication. Folks, we are 178 subs away from 15K. We are on the cusp of 15K. I saw a lot of new names here that I've never seen before. If you enjoyed the conversation, I would ask that you consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. It's 2 clicks. You click on it, you sub. If you're feeling extra generous, you hit the bell icon. I do live streams Monday through Friday, all different panels, all different shows. But you know what we don't do? We don't hate monger. We don't sell hate. We don't try and put the banana in the tailpipe. Pause. No diddy. We simply just talk about gaming. We have fun. We have amazing guests. We have sometimes people from the community that have never podcast before get onto the show, because we are one of those podcasts that do invite. You don't have to be a podcast professional to get on the show, and then you talk about games and have fun. But let's get everyone out of here. Let me make sure I'm caught up on, of course, the super chats. We got a big one here. Leonard Herrera, generous friend of the program. Not only has he been a channel member for 28 months himself, he has gifted, ladies and gentlemen, 5 Double Barrel Gaming memberships. Leonard, thank you so much for the crazy generosity. Mrs. Boom and I truly appreciate that. But Steele, let's sell the brand of living split screen. You and Pong Soul, your brother from another. Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You had a 4-hour plus show this past Saturday. You spent a great deal talking about this game that's on your screen, as you should have. By all means, tell people where they can subscribe to your YouTube channel, and more importantly, follow you on social media.
Well, the easiest place to find me, ladies and gentlemen, is just Steel Rain is going to be Steel Rain the T is a 7 everywhere. Type in the Google is the easiest place to get all the information. But I do frequent the streets of Twitter, otherwise known as X, and the Xbox ecosystem, because it does work so well between the PC and the console itself. And if you want to get some of that non-console centric gaming conversation going, I call us a gaming conversationalist podcast, where we take that RTS view every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern, and 3 p.m. UK time. That's living split screen. Split screen's all one word. Check us out. Again, we do 4-hour plus content every Saturday, and it's a chance for me and Pond to also catch up during the week, because we don't chop it up and plan things out. It's just organic conversation, 2 dudes bringing our ECP, as I've coined, that educated consumer perspective, bringing a lot of our professional opinions of real world workforce type stuff, and also trying to understand what's going on within this passion of ours known as the gaming industry. So definitely check us out there. And boom, it was a wonderful to be on. Great conversation to be had today. And it's always a great time to be in the world of the Xbox Factor podcast.
Well, thank you, brother. It's great to have you back. Love your opinion, and that's why you are always live, raw, and uncut. And we appreciate that you wear it on your sleeve. That you don't do anything for clicks, likes, or subs other than, well, talk about video games and give people great content. And we are thrilled that you were part of today's show. Thank you so much for that. Jamie Moran, let's sell your brand, brother. You got a podcast coming up. I'm not sure if it's today or it's Thursday, but you have a show each and every week where it's, well, all about Xbox. And it's, well, you don't use console war rhetoric. You don't use hate mongering. You have fun. You talk about what's going on in Xbox. Please tell everyone where they can subscribe to that YouTube channel and, more importantly, find you on social media.
Yeah, thanks, Boom, for having us on once again. It's always a pleasure. And so my channel is The Elusive Gamer. I strictly cover Xbox and, some sci-fi gaming and that. I also have All Things Xbox podcast, which is on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern. We tend to be around 2 hours long, where we just focus on Xbox. There's no console war stuff, none of that, no toxicity. And like my channel is focused about Xbox and gaming. There's no clickbait. I try not to clickbait, but unfortunately the clickbait gets the clicks, so like you kind of miss out, but it is what it is. I'd rather have truthful shit. Sorry for swearing.
That's all right, brother. That's all right.
The Elusive Gamer, I try to get out one video every week. I'm going to start doing on-camera content soon. I'm trying to hit 10,000 subscribers this year because I've got plenty of content planning. Anyway, I also do Twitter as well, which is Jamie Man UK, which is basically just 90% gaming, 10% jokes.
Well, we love it, brother, and thank you so much for being a part of this show each and every week. And of course, please check out Jamie's show later on this evening, 6 p.m. I believe that's UK time, right? Is that a UK or is that
6 p.m. Eastern?
Eastern, so 6 p.m. Eastern time, folks. Check them out. I think you're going to dig it. Real quick, Jay Rambert. Jay, thank you so much for the very kind words. And of course, he drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "Boom, keep doing what you're doing. Bots unite, LOL. Indeed, bots unite." Thank you so much, Jay. Super appreciate the kind words and, of course, the generosity. And, of course, we've got a quick reminder. This Friday, ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Boom and I are giving away 5 Double Barrel Gaming prize packs. Now, what those prize packs are, we're going to keep a secret, but there are 2 things that we can share with you. One, we are giving away, we got 5 additional Gears of War E-Day coins that are rare and extremely limited. Each one of those prize packs is getting one of those coins courtesy of Ben Kenobi and that blue number, who are the 2 that put these coin giveaways together, and they send them out to, of course, the content creators like myself. I asked for 5 additional ones. They were very kind enough to oblige, but we're also adding a $25 Xbox gift card for you in this prize pack. And of course, all you got to do to win is be in the live chat. You put the hashtag that I have secured and hidden so no one gets it. I'm going to drop it live Friday morning. You put it in there. We do the picker from StreamYards, and if they pick you, you win. You pay nothing. We ship it to you, and there you go. That's simple. Just another way of Mrs. Boom and I doing what we like to consider Christmas in July. We do it once every year. Well, that's what we're doing this year. We're giving away 5 Double Barrel Gaming prize packs that are going to include a coin, which, again, it's rare, limited, and it's dope, as well as a $25 gift card to Xbox. And all you got to do to win is be in the chat. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for everyone tuning in, being so great in the chat, having wonderful conversations. We truly appreciate it. You make this fun and engaging, and this is why we continue to do it. And, of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids, and he would say, "Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day." So take care, everyone. Let's try and stay cool, and we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast.